What's up, Fantasy Champions? Spotlight Sports Network is excited to tell you about an amazing deal from Thrive Fantasy, your place for daily fantasy sports and esports. Right now with promo code SS Network, Thrive Fantasy will match up to $50 of your first deposit. So go to thrivefantasy.com and sign up now with promo code SS Network. That's thrivefantasy.com, promo code SS Network.
Do you like the Oakland A's? Are you a fan of the Golden Knights? Do you love the Los Angeles Chargers? Well then, my friend, you're in the right place. This is the Snake Sports Talk Show with your host, Jake the Snake SIlva, brought to you by the Spotlight Sports Network.
And now, broadcasting live from Las Vegas, the Snake Sports Talk Show with Jake SIlva starts now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time again as we are back on a Monday. This is the Snake Sports Talk Show, wherever and however you may be watching and listening tonight. We're all over the social media grid, from Facebook to YouTube to Twitter and to Twitch. And you can also follow me on Instagram as well. All the social medias you can like, follow, and subscribe as well to keep you guys up to date for future and past shows here on the Spotlight Sports Network and on the Snake Sports Talk Show. Wow, what a weekend. But you know what, though? It was a lot of fun. And the only reason that I say it's only going to get better, well, preseason is just around the corner for the NFL, and there are so many headlines to really kind of dig into just to get ourselves prepared for the new season. Now, of course, there were a lot of different questions, concerns, there's a lot of different dramas, a little bit of, some momentums, and then not to mention some great headlines. But I'm very excited to be here with you guys tonight. There was so much to really talk about, but I want to start out with this because this weekend was a very special weekend, and everybody that does know and remember, this past weekend was the NFL's Hall of Fame induction ceremony in Canton, Ohio, as all of the greats were being enshrined and inducted into the Hall of Fame. It was a lot of fun. Charles Woodson, Peyton Manning, Drew Pearson, there was a lot of really good, great players. And then not to mention one of the best coaches in Tom Flores, which finally, after all these years, gets into the NFL Hall of Fame. But you know what? I want to point out at least a few things, because this induction ceremony was not just headlining everybody that was going in to football immortality. No, there was a little bit of a hint moment. And there were a couple of them that it mentioned. There was a couple of them that you could already tell that just from, just from all of just the perspectives that you saw this past weekend, all amongst one thing. It ain't just Peyton Manning getting into the Football Hall of Fame. It wasn't just Charles Woodson and a bunch of others. What this was this is hinting to only one player in particular, Tom Brady. All of it was. There were back and forths. Tom Brady, of course, going back on social media, talking about, when he just first said, I just need to make sure he's really done. Can't risk this guy coming back. The whole Peyton man, both Peyton and Tom faced off 17 times in their career, in that NFL era and in that span. And it was so much fun to watch. But you've got to think of the era of quarterbacks. What's going on, everybody? As, of course, everybody's tuning in onto the chat. Coach Dante, Caden Jenkins, what's going on? Pat, what's happening? Everybody. Appreciate all of you guys coming on. So this was the fun thing. This was the era of quarterbacks over the years that I grew up watching. I mean, you had Drew Brees, you had Peyton Manning, you had Phillip Rivers, you had Tom Brady, Big Ben, Brett Favre, and there was an awful lot of quarterbacks. And honestly, the late Steve McNair, I think, would have been a great era of quarterbacks. And it's only going to get better and better from here. And Donovan McNabb and Eli. There were a ton of quarterbacks, and we're only shifting into the new era. There are only two quarterbacks still lasting in this league, Big Ben and Tom. Those are the only two quarterbacks left standing of that era. But what's funny about this is you see Peyton get inducted into the Hall of Fame. But the whole idea of this is that when it came to Peyton, we knew how much of the struggle he went through and then became one of the best quarterbacks ever. Was great when it came to audibles, was great to seeing exactly how defense is shaped, and made adjustments through and through. But one of the best things and what's so authentic about Peyton is that being just a leader, and then not to mention a teacher of the game. Tom, of course, is one person who mastered it all. Which is why I think when Tom's time is up, and who knows, when Tom's time's up, he'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer, hands down. There is no doubt about that. One of the great things, and I'll play this for you from Tom or from Peyton, which I think is very motivating. And I also do think that we're shifting into a new era. The second that Big Ben and Tom is retired, this is kind of the thing that Peyton shared in his induction ceremony.
My good friend Tom Brady is here tonight. By the time he is inducted, by the time Tom Brady is inducted in his first year of eligibility in the year 2035, he'll only have time to post his acceptance speech on his Instagram account.
There is no better quarterback competition than it was between Tom and Peyton. And I truly think that after a while, and this is also what was finished from Peyton in the beginning.
Tonight, it is no longer about us. It is about cultivating the game that has given so much to us. It's about nurturing football to live and thrive another day, another year, decade, and another generation. It's about guaranteeing that kids everywhere can learn, bond, grow, and have fun with every flag pulled, every tackle made, every pass thrown, every run, block, sack, and touchdown scored. This stage tonight, the audience here tonight is made up of diehard fans who feel football deep in your bones. Now, we may have ignited the fire, but you have fanned the flames. Inevitably, those flames will be whipped by the winds of change, but they don't need to smolder. The future of this game is ours to shape. We just need to take tomorrow on our shoulders as readily as we donned our pads before each game.
There was no better person who could have broke that down better. And not to mention the fact that we're shifting into a new era of quarterbacks only tells you one thing. That era will forever be remembered as one that you had an era of competitors. You had an era of competitive quarterbacks. Look, Brett Favre was a gunslinger, and he was risky, but he was a damn good competitor. Won a Super Bowl with Green Bay. And Green Bay was always a small town organization. Always has been, always will be. But at the same time, you always love those small town stories. Peyton Manning, an absolute artist in the game, shifted audibles, was also a big-time competitor, won 2 Super Bowls, one with Indianapolis and the other with Denver. Now, you could say what you want to about loyalty and whatnot, but Peyton was still the same inside and out, and none of that was going to change. And what I think is, it's amazing when you see a lot of these quarterbacks, and what's funny about this is Drew Brees. What I think will be funny is that Drew Brees being, drafted from Purdue was not really a California guy, no matter how much people look at that. Yes, he played with the San Diego Chargers at the time, but think about the culture he shaped and what he built in New Orleans. He revived it, gave it hope, restructured and gave it a new culture, gave something for people to look forward to. That's why I think Drew Brees, when his induction comes up, I'm not sure he may be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but I know he's a Hall of Famer in my opinion. Breaking records, building a culture, winning a Super Bowl in the most losingest franchise in history. New Orleans was not on the map when it came to competitive cultures. They were not. And then look at Big Ben. I know a lot of people want to say things about Big Ben, but he's a 2-time Super Bowl champion. Pittsburgh has always been an organization that were smart on quarterbacks, smart on wide receivers. Hell, they were even smart on running backs. And their defenses got better and better year in and year out. When you look at the Rooney family and over the years, you look at Lynn Swann, you look at Stallworth, you look at Hines Ward and Santonio Holmes and a lot of these wide receivers. Pittsburgh had talent so much top to bottom. And Big Ben, and this is funny because you come across quarterbacks after Tommy Maddox and Cordell Stewart. I mean, the only successful quarterback really to come out of that organization had always been Terry Bradshaw. And then once his era was over, then it became Ben's. That's why I think that's why Ben will be a Hall of Famer. Steve McNair. Here's what was so interesting about Steve McNair. Because he gets to a Super Bowl with the Titans. Used to be the Houston Oilers at the time. Then became the Tennessee Oilers. Then changed to the Titans. But what's so funny about this, Steve McNair was a competitor, made it all the way to the Super Bowl, unfortunately lost to Kurt Warner and the Rams. But it was still such an exciting Super Bowl all the way around because of how tough the competition was on both ends. And they only lost by a game of inches. You all remember the Dyson stretch and the stop right at the goal line. It was a game of inches. And even when Steve McNair, before losing him, Tennessee and Baltimore, was still a hell of a quarterback. I think at some point, respectfully, he'll be a Hall of Famer. Maybe not at first ballot, but respectfully, I think he'd be a guy that you'd add on to this list of era of quarterbacks. And I think one would be a competitor. I know a lot of people want to say things about Phillip Rivers, but even Phillip Rivers was a competitor. He was a competitor. The problem of it was that the Chargers would never, ever get over the humps. That's why everybody looked at him as the modern day Dan Fouts. But could you blame Dan Fouts for injuries? Could you blame Dan Fouts for offensive line not being strong? I mean, that had been the focal point with the Chargers organization. Then there's a lot, there's so many of them. And it all goes across the list of guys like Eli Manning, Carson Palmer, Donovan McNabb. Donovan McNabb got to a Super Bowl with the Eagles and was still doing his absolute best, but then eventually Philly had to go through their share of quarterbacks like A.J. Feely, Kevin Cobb, Nick Foles. There was an awful lot. But even so, going to the Redskins at the time, Donovan still showed those gists of being a competitor, but I don't think he really got the open opportunities. And much like Alex Smith, everybody looked at Alex Smith as a bust. But in the end, his career got revived the second he formed with Jim Harbaugh and Andy Reid. You know, that's the one thing that you look at from a lot of these quarterbacks in this era. But if you had to narrow it down by the best quarterbacks of that era, Tom perfected the era. Peyton showed you the level of competitiveness, fun, and then not to mention just being the teacher of the game. Brett Favre was the reckless gunslinger that nobody would think would make it through. But man, he was a competitor. He didn't care how many interceptions he was going to get. As long as he threw the ball downfield and got it to his target, that's who Brett Favre was. And then Big Ben. Surround the talent around him. Defensively, offensively. And then you have two coaches, Bill Cowher, who's a Hall of Famer, and Mike Tomlin. Two really good coaches in a Pittsburgh organization. That's the one thing that you like about it. And yeah, and even you could throw in Joe Flacco, but you know, Joe Flacco's an interesting story though, because think about it. You got a guy nobody paid attention to on the map out of Delaware and then goes to Baltimore, makes an impact. But the difference with Joe Flacco, though, here's the thing. You did surround him with offensive talents like Ray Rice, Torrey Smith, Anquan Bolden, and others. But the other part is it had always been an organization that Ray Lewis, Terrell Suggs, Ed Reed, it was all about the defense. That's what it was like when the Ravens won it in 2000 over the Giants. And it was the same way once it was the same way when they won it against San Francisco. The defense just came up clutch. The offense started to score points. So this is what's the interesting thing, though, too. And yeah, Eli Manning, and a lot of people still give debates about Eli Manning, whether he is a Hall of Famer or not. He still is a Hall of Famer. The second you win Super Bowls, it cleans everything. It's like when you got a stain in your white t-shirt. And then ultimately everybody's like, That stain's never going to come off. You're not going to be, the ultra clean and all this other stuff. And then the second that they win the Super Bowl, it gets it clean. The shirt becomes clean. And then eventually starts to stain up. And then that's when Eli's career just kind of ended that way. But still was a Super Bowl champion twice. And is notable for the throws. The throw to David Tyree, the throw to Mario Manningham. Those were always the moments we'll remember with Eli Manning. But here's the funny thing, and this is where I'll shift to. You talk about Tom, and the reason that I think Tom's enshrinement will be an absolute party is because once Tom's retired, the era is officially over, and it's the start of a new era. And Tom, who perfected literally every aspect of the position and every page of the book in this league. That's what Tom has been able to do. And he's in the best shape of his life, even at his age. He motivates a lot of players, strengthens a lot of players, and that's why everybody loves to come and play for him. But here's the other difference too, and one person I'll name in particular, Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, I do believe will be a Hall of Fame at some point. But his enshrinement is going to be the most awkward scene. Because Aaron, the difference with him and Brett is because Brett Favre kind of toyed with the retirement thing. Aaron, not being happy in Green Bay and everything that he has been doing lately, kind of put everybody in the kind of questionable look on their face. What really is it about Aaron Rodgers? The fact of it is, he still won a Super Bowl. That's not changing. But is also going to be known as the one with the golden arm. Eventually, and who knows how long it may be for Patrick Mahomes, but you could almost kind of feel that creeping in. But Aaron, it'll be the most awkward induction for him because of the fact of not just because winning a Super Bowl, but the personality things we've seen from Aaron Rodgers. And that's why I think the difference with Tom and him, Tom's respected well in this league, don't get me wrong. But perfection and mastering the game itself. You're witnessing an artist in front of you. One of the greatest artists like Leonardo da Vinci or even just a Michelangelo. But Aaron, all this tussle in Green Bay since he hadn't started when Brett was around, kind of tells you a little bit something about just how this is going to carry on. They'll be Hall of Famers, but if you were thinking of a party for Aaron Rodgers, it'd be like one of those get-together hangouts. Not a whole lot of people. It wouldn't be like Tom, where he's got a mansion and you got a house full of people, and it's a big-time party because you're witnessing one of the greats in front of you. But for Aaron, it's like a kickback. That's what I feel like is going to be the vibe the second we have the Hall of Fame enshrinement. I wanted to get into this. So, the first thing I have to say, and I'll look into this very, very quickly. I apologize for the time, folks. I talked about this in my show a while back. And I'm shifting into one sport that nobody barely talks about, but is still well respected in the world. But we witnessed not only just close to an end of an era, but we witnessed an actual end of an era. So, one of the greatest soccer players currently in the world, Lionel Messi, is done in Barcelona. I said this a while back because the whole thought of Messi leaving Barcelona was absolute, just it was absolute, just it was silly. Because what I said is that Lionel Messi shaped the culture of Barcelona. Like anytime, the greatest rivalry from the Red Sox Yankees, Dodgers Giants, all these rivalries that you see around in sports, nothing compared to the rivalry between Real Madrid and Barcelona. Cristiano Ronaldo versus Lionel Messi. It was one of the greatest rivalries that you would see and one of the best showdowns. Like, people pay mad money overseas just to fill up the entire arena and the entire stadium just to watch a soccer game. And Lionel Messi, well respected by everyone in the leagues and everywhere around the world. Between him and Ronaldo, and you could probably throw in Neymar Jr. and others, there will not be another Messi. Neither will there be another Ronaldo. But I watched the press conference not too long ago, and just not just the devastations, but just the emotion of everything he devoted into Barcelona, the championships, the grit, the grind. And Messi was his own person, which I think is so unique about the game of soccer. Because only though it is a team sport, but a lot of these teams overseas, around the world, all have superstars. And Messi was one of them. Messi was the absolute focal point, but had a lot of really good supporters. They were not big-time superstars, but these were supporting. It's almost like when you watch a movie. You watch one of the best actors. If this is how I can tell that this will be a really good movie. You give me one of the top best actors on film. The other thing that I look for is who is his supporting cast. If you got a really good lineup of supporting cast, that's going to be a movie that's going to be willing to win multiple awards. And we watch it all the time. You see this all the time whenever we watch the award shows for movies. Lionel Messi is one of the greatest soccer players in history and is like the top best actor in movies. And he had his fair shares of supporting cast roles. Like all of the role players there in Barcelona. But the second you witness that in that press conference and the emotions, everything just kind of surrounding the whole atmosphere told you about how devoted he was to this organization. And again, Ronaldo still respected in Real Madrid, but the second he went to Juventus overseas, it changed. He became such a global icon. Messi right now has an opportunity to, at the very least, implement the similar thing that Ronaldo does, but in a different look, going to PSG. And I know it's going to be a very interesting yet awkward, weird look for a lot of people who are big-time soccer fans. But I'll tell you this. When you see something like that in a press conference or anywhere, it just tells you how devoted the player or the person may be. It ain't just a fact of devastation. Yes, it may be devastating to a lot of Barcelona fans, the organization, and everybody else themselves. But it also tells you what that means of just pure loyalty. I spoke about this. Derek Jeter never left the Yankees. He'd stayed for 20 years. Cal Ripken stayed with Baltimore his entire career. You don't see that level of loyalty anymore. You don't see that anymore. So when I look at this in soccer, it's a tough moment. It's hard. But I give a lot of best respects for Messi. And I hope the absolute best future for him in PSG. It's devastating for a lot of fans. You feel the tensions, you feel the emotions, you feel everything in that press conference. But you still are witnessing the two greatest soccer players in history all over the world. And again, when Ronaldo did it, it was like just a Band-Aid just got kind of ripped clean off. But for Messi, it was like you were ripping the stitches off a cut. And that's where I think you kind of feel a little bit more of that pain and emotion and everything. But again, Messi, I give him props and respects. And we'll never forget those moments in Barcelona. And I think that this is a new, different era. The second that he goes into PSG. And who knows exactly what his career will shape later on. Coming up next, the Dallas Mavericks did something as well not too long ago. They ended up extending Luka Doncic's contract. This is only sending a signal for one thing. Not this year. But it's sending a signal for the near future. There's a lot of work that Mark Cuban and the Dallas Mavericks have to do to get themselves back up onto the map, because I'm going to explain what that is and discussing more about the NBA coming up next. All right, so all of our fantasy gurus and everybody else here in the chat and so much more. You guys love fantasy play. You guys love winning cold hard cash. There's an app. There is a website that you could go to for all of the fantasy fun, cash prizes, and so much more, called thrivefantasy.com. You can download it also on your mobile device through Google Play in the App Store. And when you sign up today on Thrive Fantasy, because we've got an NFL thing happening week 1, you could be winning up to $100K in pool play. There's pool plays that are getting reloaded every single day and every week once the NFL season starts up. And the other part of it is, when you sign up today, put in your $20 deposit, go on to Thrive Fantasy and use promo code SS Network, and Thrive Fantasy will grant you $50 on a match from your $20 deposit for extra play, extra fun, and so much more. And we don't want to leave our hardcore gamers out there, because we also do bet on esports as well. So what are you guys waiting for? You guys want to win cold hard cash and you guys want all the fun? Go to thrivefantasy.com, sign up, and use promo code SS Network. That's thrivefantasy.com, promo code SS Network.
But I know that's just in my mind. I know everything is just in my mind. Do you really want to be famous? Do you really want to be a superstar? Do you really want to get dangerous? Do you even know where the groupies are? Bitches out here
Welcome to Hammer's house.
Once a raider, bruh, always a raider, bruh. Shit simple as that. You look silver and black. Lot of bread invested in that O-line. Car insurance cost an arm and a leg to reach that goal line. Let's go.
77, your place for all things Raiders and all things Trailblazers. Brought to you by the Spotlight Sports Network. Make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. Now let's go.
Watching your number one source for all things San Francisco Giants, Seattle Kraken, Denver Broncos, and Denver Nuggets. You're tuned in to the Case by Case Sports Show, presented by the Spotlight Sports Network. And now from Seattle, Washington, here's your host, Jeremy Case.
So, of course, folks, that is the newest addition to the Spotlight Sports Network showcase as well. You guys can check out the Case by Case Sports Show with our one and only Jeremy Case as he's up on here on the Spotlight Sports Network. It's a lot of fun. So much to talk about. Seattle Kraken, Denver Broncos, Denver Nuggets, and San Francisco Giants. It's a lot of fun. I love the guy, and I absolutely love a lot of the content. And like I said, it's a different adjustment. It's a different look. Well, man, I absolutely love it. So, all right. So, it's pretty interesting, when you look at the NBA and the way that things have just been shaped over the years. So this was reported earlier today. So the Dallas Mavericks. The Dallas Mavericks ended up signing Luka Doncic to a big-time extension, which means that he's basically the face of the franchise for the Mavs. And again, they hit a jackpot the second that they got him overseas. He's a competitor, wants to win now, and this was the landmark. It was a 5-year, $207 Supermax extension. And he's one of the most accomplished players in NBA history at age 22. And he's only going to get better. It's interesting because I talked about this before with, LeBron James, because eventually the time is really going to run up. It's going to run out, and then you've got to end up shifting. That's the way that it is. But no disrespect to LeBron James, but you look at Luka Doncic and the things he's doing now, and you can only imagine what his future is going to look like years down the road. But I love his style of play. He's also a guy that he can talk and shows up every time. But what this is telling you with this extension, Dallas needs to surround him with supportive players. Tim Hardaway, really good piece. Not enough. Kristaps Porzingis, you'd think it'd work, but he's injured majority of the time. Not really going to be enough. They lost Seth Curry to Philadelphia, who I thought was a real good shooter off the bench, because the only kryptonite to them is the Clippers and Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Those are the only kryptonites preventing Dallas from actually getting over the hump. They're hungry for this. But for as young as Luka is at 22 years old, Mark Cuban has to make all the moves possible for the Mavs to really be a competitive team. You look at all over the West. Golden State's getting better. Utah is Utah. What we witnessed with Phoenix was it was a great story. The Lakers, they're teaming up guys, but I don't think they're really going to stay as healthy as people think they are. And then you got Denver with Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. So Dallas wants to get into that mix where they want to make the hump. And they got to get past a lot of these teams in the West. It's stacked. But of course, it's always a smart thing, especially when you look at the NFL today. When you know you have the right quarterback from the right coach and the right personnel, you extend the quarterback's contract because that will ensure he's a lock-in. He's guaranteed in. It's a buy-in. Right now, Dallas is bought in to Luka. But that buy-in has to stay consistent. Otherwise, it's like you kind of paid all this money, and now all it is that he's got all of his earnings. You can't surround him with players. He's going to want to look at a different destination. Look around the league. I mean, you look at Portland, who Damian Lillard is very loyal to Portland. Doesn't want to leave. Many people think otherwise. But all it takes is surrounding him really good players that complement with him, that play the right tempo to get them over the humps. That's all it takes. So at some point, Dallas, you got plenty of time, but as I've said before, do not linger on this time when it comes to building a potential championship team around Luka, because it will not last this long. So if you want to do this right and you want to do this well, you extended him, check. Get him at least real good role players, check. But then get him a superstar. That should be the next biggest check that it should be for Dallas. That's what's going to help them to get up over the hump. Again, I'm happy that he at least got his money's worth, but Dallas cannot be lingering this on for the next couple of years. They have got to get him something. Do not mess this around. Time now for the hot press. All right, so of course there were a couple of things that have gone on here in the sports world, and like I mentioned, we had the Hall of Fame enshrinement. So they just announced the 2022 list for next year. So, and there are a lot of really, really good names coming out of that. So 2022, they're going to feature a lot of real good names for their first years. Steve Smith Sr. has been announced. DeMarcus Ware, the edge rusher. Andre Johnson, wide receiver. Vince Wilfork, nose tackle. Tony Romo will be the next guy. Anquan Bolden. So there's a lot of real good names that's up and out there. Again, I really loved. We're in the position now that ever since like this Hall of Fame induction, it's loaded. It's loaded with an awful lot of talent and guys that I've watched in the 2000s and beyond. And as I've said before, we are moving into this era now. Like we're moving into this new era that after Tom and Big Ben are retired, the one thing that I really, really, really am excited for, because this new era is going to feature Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Joe Burrow. The list is going on. You've got a new era of quarterbacks that are going to be coming in the second that the two of them are retired. And I think this is a good thing for the league. I really, really do. I do think this is something that's really going to shape the era of the league. And at the same time, it's going to be very, very interesting. Oh, yeah, and that does remind me. So, of course, the former Florida State head coach, Bobby Bowden, has unfortunately passed away. Bobby Bowden was one of those really, really great coaches in the collegiate world with Florida State, led Florida State to a lot of different championships and, of course, to a lot of big-time games over the years. And Bobby Bowden, well-respected in college football. We really do send our thoughts and prayers to the Bowen family, and hell of a head coach. There's no question about that whatsoever. Hell of a head coach, great guy. And like I said, shaped up Florida State the way that they are. So, so this is real interesting here, but as we look, there's a little bit more news up here, left and right. Well, like I said, training camp is already up and underway, And right now there's actually one quarterback right now, because there are a couple of different teams, different organizations that may be looking at quarterback. So Marcus Mariota, Raiders backup quarterback to Derek Carr, he's keeping an eye out on a potential starting quarterback job around the NFL. So Mariota and the Raiders were able to rework his contract, make it affordable to where they can go and get real good players to boost up the team and whatnot. But when he was asked about if he monitors different quarterback situations, he would absolutely be all ears on starting quarterback roles. Now, again, all it took was Marcus Mariota with a big-time surprise. I think part of this, too, taking that backup role to the Raiders, was reshape, refocus, get healthy. Because, again, over and over again, when we watched him in Tennessee, was a good potential, but at the same time, couldn't stay healthy, couldn't really stay accurate. And Tennessee just kind of had enough. And that's where they settled with Ryan Tannehill. They needed to have a quarterback that was going to be consistent. They needed somebody that was going to end up they were definitely going to end up working on, they wanted to win. They wanted to win badly. So it's really interesting with the situation itself at hand. But again, I think Marcus Mariota is a real good quarterback. I don't think he's terrible, but I do think, let's see what this season pans out. Because if he does come into his different situations with the Raiders and he gets some sort of starting quarterback role, because I'm sure that there may be a couple of places that he could fit in, it's not really going to last as long. I mean, you could take the Vikings or the Cowboys or a lot of different places. However you're going to pan this out. I even think of the Washington football team. I don't know why, but I just almost think that the Washington football team, but there's a lot that I could really discuss about that. So the Miami Dolphins and Xavier Howard, they finally come to a resolution on the contract dispute with the Dolphins organization, and they reworked a deal that will likely keep him in a Dolphins uniform in 2021. There were a lot of talks about potential trade situations and suits, but doesn't look like Xavier Howard's going to end up going anywhere at this point. So they had to restructure the deal, rework it, because we know that we saw a lot of just the contract disputes themselves, not getting respected, not getting paid enough, all this other stuff. It's been a long list of a lot of baggage, but at the same time, these are some of these things that have tendencies where they happen, but it's a good thing that they at least restructured the deal so Xavier Howard is not going to end up leaving Miami very, very quickly. So let's see now what the new year is going to bring for the Miami Dolphins. It's already a stacked defense. It's already a really good one, very competitive team. We'll see what we get to with this one. That was your hot press, folks. Coming up next, as usual, my NFL predictions, and this time we are routing to the NFC East. We're going to the NFC East this time. And I don't know exactly what we're going to end up getting from there, but there was a lot of different shifts and changes. But I will break down the NFC East predictions at the best way possible. And I think this is good. I think this is really, really good. I think you guys are going to love this one. So, all righty, guys. So, like I said, we've had deals going around left and right for a lot of our brand merchandises and so much more. I love every single one of you guys supporting and continuing to just share and subscribe, share with friends and families, but get geared up as well. Show us some more of your supports here on the Spotlight Sports Network and on the Snake Sports Talk Show as well, with some of our merchandise gear on SpotlightSportsNetwork.com under the merchandise section, powered by Spreadshirt. We got hats, hoodies, t-shirts, and so much more to go around for. Show us your support. Even send us pictures, and we will definitely post them up on our social media page, so you guys get showcased in our merchandises. We'd absolutely love it, you guys. Go online to SpotlightSportsNetwork.com, merchandise section, powered by Spreadshirt.
What's up, fantasy champions? Spotlight Sports Network is excited to tell you about an amazing deal from Thrive Fantasy, your place for daily fantasy sports and esports. Right now, with promo code SS Network, Thrive Fantasy will match up to $50 of your first deposit. So go to thrivefantasy.com and sign up now with promo code SS Network. That's thrivefantasy.com, promo code SS Network.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I really do appreciate every single one of you guys jumping on here tonight on a Monday night. It's always so much fun to being around with all of you guys here in the chats, also in the views, and so much more wherever and however you may be watching and listening. I really do appreciate every single one of you guys, and I encourage that you guys continue to share, subscribe, like, and hit the bell button for all latest notifications on futures and past shows to keep you up to date on the Snake Sports Talk Show on the Spotlight Sports Network. So, without further ado, as usual, the NFL division predictions. It's been bold. It's been solid. Like I said, I don't give up actual exact records because sometimes they usually change over time. But we do have one extra game this year. That's why I'm just like, I might as well just do it from just teams in the division, because then it's breaking down all the weeks and all the rest of the stuff. So, all right, so we're focusing more on the NFC East. And this is an interesting one. And I know not a lot of people are very fond and not really hyped about the NFC East, which I understand and I get it. But it was just kind of a disappointing performance of a division all the way around. But Washington had a hell of a defense with Ron Rivera. There's a couple different changes. Ryan Fitzpatrick's now the quarterback. Dak Prescott's coming back from injury. But I still have questions about the secondaries. It's do or die mode right now for Daniel Jones. And then can Philadelphia fix up this mess with what they've had with Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, and a bunch of others? So I'm going to be breaking this down here. So here we go. NFC East division predictions. So number 4, I'm going with the New York Giants. Here's my honest opinion about this organization, because first of all, they want to be better than where they were the previous year. And at first, Joe Judge in his first year, I wasn't sure what type of coach I was getting, but I am getting like a hard grind coach. I'm also getting, some better improvements, a little bit on the line. They still have some holes they need to fill. Defensively is a little bit interesting, but also too, you're getting Kyle Rudolph, an experienced tight end, because something has got to give with Evan Ingram. There should be no more excuses from here. But you do get Kenny Golladay. You have Saquon Barkley, who's getting back and getting healthy. And Daniel Jones just needs to play better football. No more fumbles. It's hard for me to really break this down with the Giants because it's a hit or miss type organization at this point. And we already know the histories of who they've gone through to get to this point. But I do see significant changes with this organization, but it's still going to be a process through and through with them. And I'm not sure that they'll be able to achieve it that quickly, but I think the Giants will be finishing up 4th respectfully in the NFC East. Number 3, I have to put this up here respectfully, but it's the Dallas Cowboys at number 3. I understand we're getting Dak Prescott back and healthy, and not to mention you're getting an offense with Blake Jarwin, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, and Amari Cooper. I get it, but look at some of the downfalls with the Cowboys. Zeke hasn't really been running the ball the same. I have question marks about that. The secondaries, great. You got Trayvon Diggs. That's awesome. But the Cowboys, I like Micah Parsons. I really do. I like the pick. But the offense right now, the offensive line is not going to be the same for long. Zach Martin's coming back from injury. I don't know how 100% he will be. And you're still kind of... you're just still kind of dealing with the hole with Travis Frederick and a bunch of this other stuff. But again, Dak could prove me wrong. This is why, respectfully, I have them at 3. But remember, this could be a tie for second in this division themselves. So it's not guaranteeable that there'll be a third place team, because I do think that this could be a tie for second, pushing for a playoff spot. But I've got to see improvements by the first 4 weeks, if not 5. I got to see improvements with the quarterback, with the Cowboys, because, and this is the other thing too, the Cowboys are featured in Hard Knocks for the 3rd time already. And so who knows what's going to happen with Dallas? Question marks all the way around. But I can only say I think we can get a better Dak Prescott. Prove it to me. Number 2, the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, again, they could be tied up with the Cowboys in this, in this second place spot. The only reason that I say this is because you're getting Jalen Hurts, who, from what I was told in training camp and what I've seen, I don't know what I'm going to get out of Nick Sirianni. I think he's kind of an interesting cat. I don't think he's any more interesting than Dan Campbell in Detroit, but Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman have to fix this mess that they built. But I do love the fact that they get Devontae Smith. Him and Jalen Hurts have gone way back. They've connected in Alabama. Zach Ertz is going to be returning. Who knows what's in line and what's in question with them at tight end. But, you still have Fletcher Cox. You still have all of this. And who knows? I really like it. And I mean, at the same time, there's a lot of adjustments. And this is why this is such an interesting division to me, because it could either be the Cowboys, it could be either the Eagles, and it could also be one more other team at the end of the day. So here's where I have my number 1 team, and this might shock all of you guys in the NFC East, but my number 1 is going to be the Washington football team. I know what people are going to say, and I know I'm going to get backlash for this. But here's the thing about the Washington football team and what Ron Rivera has done successfully. He has shaped up this defense with Chase Young, Montez Sweat, and a couple of other really good secondaries. That's all you need is the right role players and the pieces to really get Ron Rivera to be a shutdown type defense. They are so stacked at defense. Offense is going to be questionable to me. Antonio Gibson, Terry McLaurin, I think, is going to have an even better year. But the only position that questions me is the quarterback. And like I said before, because we talked about Marcus Mariota looking for a starting quarterback job, but at the same time, Ryan Fitzpatrick is only just a lightning in the bottle quarterback. I don't understand this rant and rave. But if you really want my honest opinion, why don't you just go with Taylor Heineke? I know people are kind of like, well, he was kind of lightning in the bottle. Honestly, I've watched every play snap from what Heineke had to give me. And he was playing like he had faced Tom Brady like 10 times, running the football around, making smart passes. And the other wide receiver, the other kid, Sims, I mean, him and Terry McLaurin, I think, are going to be interesting duos, fun duos to watch. But I think most of your games are really going to be low scoring games because that defense is really good. It's tough. But yeah, I honestly think that the Washington football team is probably the team to beat in this division. But if you had to look at the rest of the NFC, the division itself is so questionable. The whole thing has its own question marks. But that's respectfully what I have. The Giants, the Cowboys, the Eagles, and the Washington football team. Now, remember, these 3 teams with Washington, Philadelphia, and Dallas, they could tie themselves. They could put it's probably going to be limited by like 1, if not 2 game gap by all 3 of these teams. So that's why I think the NFC East is up for grabs. It's not the most attractive division, but it is a division that they punch the ticket into the playoffs. Who cares what happens with the rest of them? So, I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly how this will pan out, but they call it the NFC East for a reason. So it's questionable. Alrighty, guys. I appreciate you guys coming on by here tonight. I appreciate it. Have a great night, and we will see you guys Wednesday night on another edition of the Snake Sports Talk Show. Have a great night. Be safe. Stay healthy, and we will see you guys Wednesday. Take care of yourselves.